Okay, so what you're looking at is every curriculum product, and the reason I have this page on here is because I can take you through from start to finish, and it's much easier seeing it visually. So our youngest student product is the KiddyKeys Curriculum, which is the green cover that you see here. So I'm going to click on that, and I want to take you through a curriculum overview where I have my little cursor there so you can see that. And then side by side if you want to see that, or you certainly can look after. So KiddyKeys and Company is for our youngest students. At the top you'll see that it's ages 1.5 to 3 with optional adult participation. Probably could be with 1-year-olds also. This one has a pretty smooth, slow trajectory, and it is really heavily based in music and movement. In fact, the lesson plans, here I can even show you. The lesson plans so this is the front and the back side of the plan. And this entire front side of the plan is really a music and movement with a smattering, a really light dose of piano within the class. And for this particular class, lesson number 1 is about meeting Mozart. Under Let's Meet Mozart, the very final bullet, it's optional, inviting the children to create a little song on your keyboard or piano. Their adult guests may join them to play a duet like Mozart and his sister Manuel would have done. So the piano component is really a very small component to KiddyKeys and Company. And if you want it to be even more heavily music and movement based, on the back side, it lists all the tracks that are music and movement so that you really could make KiddyKeys and Company a true just music and movement with or without the piano component. And it doesn't have to have adults. I know there are teachers that offer this at child care centers that there are certainly no adults there, but we called it KiddyKeys and Company because it's for a child and an adult. And I'm going to say one thing. So I'm seeing Jennifer's text, and I can't see anything that's happening back on Facebook now. So if there end up being questions, and Jennifer, if you see them, feel free to text them to me. So back to KiddyKeys and Company. So adults don't have to be there. I like that fun component, and adults, it gives the parents a really great chance to learn along with their child, right? If they want to learn some basic theory, that is in these classes. We talk about Allegro and Lento and Forte and piano. So the concepts are in there, but they're very much explored in a music and movement format. Excuse me. Clicking on the curriculum overview. So the first curriculum listed here is KiddyKeys and Company, and it's just a complete overview of every lesson that's in here. So we talk about Mozart, Beethoven, Clara, Bach. I like to put some composers and some history in there. And then you'll see where it goes into concepts right away. High and low sounds, loud and soft. They're finger numbers, but instead of being 1 through 5 all at once, we break it down because they're little people, right? It's a lot for them to maybe move finger 1. So we broke the fingers into single components, lessons 13 through 20, the music alphabet letters, again, focusing on 1 letter at a time, very much making an alphabet letter. But we take them to learning some seasonal lessons as well, but we tie music concepts into that. But little children love stories, and they love the stories that go along with this. So you'll see that there's a historical component with the composers. There's a music concept component with the finger numbers, some basic concepts, and then we have the seasonal lessons. And that's the core of the curriculum. So I had to go back here again for KiddyKeys and Company. So again, 1 or 1.5 to 3 optional adult participation. There's no worksheets put with this at all. What we do have is we have a KiddyKeys coloring book that has actual pages from the storybooks that you read to the children during KiddyKeys and Company, and they can do that at home. If they have their parents with them, they're not going to want to take the time to color. And let's face it, if you've ever seen a 1.5 and a 3-year-old, they're very different in terms of the length of time that they color. So there are no worksheets included with that one. We just let them, they learn about the concepts and then go home and have fun with it. And that's the goal of KiddyKeys and Company, to lay a foundation for where we're going. And where we're going is to the KiddyKeys Level 1 curriculum. And so that's here, the new blue cover. We just had these all refreshed, and I think they're shiny and pretty. So here's Level 1. And Level 1 is either the follow-up to KiddyKeys and Company, or it's can be where they start. I think Level 1 is the ideal place to start. KiddyKeys is for, again, 2.5 to 5. I don't like to put hard lines on things. Some 2-year-olds are ready, and there are 6 and 7-year-olds that have taken KiddyKeys. I personally have had kids that have done 3 years of KiddyKeys itself, not KiddyKeys and Company. So it's just depending where they're at, whether they're ready to move on to piano lessons. But we want to make sure that we integrate the piano component so that if they are ready to move in that direction, that this is easily integrated into the lessons. So the curriculum for level 1, it has 30 lesson plans, and again, you can take a look inside of the lesson plans to see how they're laid out. Same idea as the KiddyKeys and Company, but very much a piano focus as part of this. And then the curriculum overview will pop over there. Is sliding down, we see level 1 here, and we dive in from the start. So it's high and low sounds, loud and soft, finger numbers, all 5 at once. Hand position is a big focus of the classes, the keyboard geography, music alphabet, tempos, quarter notes, half, dotted halves, and wholes. Lesson by lesson 15, we are teaching them about the staff. Now, they will have seen the staff. I don't overdefine it. We say it's a staff, and that's where I put the notes, and children don't expect elaborate descriptions of things. You say it's a staff, it's a staff. But in lesson number 15, we're gonna really dive into it and talk about the lines and the spaces, and that being the home of music. And that's when we really start integrating the little idea of composition so they can write songs. Whether that's on the staff paper that we provide them, you have that in your kitchen, or if they want to draw their own staff. Now, I've seen staffs that have 20 lines and one big old whole note in the middle, and I celebrate that because it's their creation, right? And who knows, maybe they're one day going to invent the next standard for notation, or it's just their creative exploration of music. I'm okay with that. Let them put a name on it. So I love lesson 15 when we can really start integrating that idea of composition and them writing their own little songs. And then you can see from there we talk about stepping and skipping notes, the treble clef, the bass clef, G, F, and C. And then again, there's seasonal lessons that tie into music concepts. For example, the flag for the United States is the stars and stripes, and those break down to being the lines and spaces of the staff. I will say, you know, tying this in, and I'll come back to it later, to the new piano playground book. So once they hit lesson 18, 19, 20, when they are learning treble G, bass clef F, and middle C, they can easily start, if you have them even in groups, with Piano Playground, because those songs can be taught by rote, and the very beginning pieces are based largely on C, F, and G. So even if it's at the end of level 1, let's say recital time, they can be, those are perfect pieces. First of all, they have duets, and they have backing tracks. So you could turn on the backing track for slide down, and they could play the C scale, like Chandra Wright had mentioned earlier that she did. Her daughter did it at her recent recital. So at any point in here, you could start towards the end integrating Piano Playground if you wanted to. We'll also talk a little bit about Road Trip Outdoor Adventure and KiddyKeys Plus later. So when I talk about it later, how at this point you'd be able to integrate it, I'm referencing it now, so when I come to it later, you're thinking, you get the connection. So at this point, we would be able to integrate some very basic reading, whether by rote or by note. They've learned C, F, and G. For students that are ready, they could certainly play those songs by note. So that's the overview of level 1. And I have to go back now. I'll go here. So level 1, again, has those beginning concepts, a heavy dose of piano. Someone asked about improvisation the other day. That can be whatever you need it to be, and that may be very short if you have a large class, maybe 20 or 30 seconds. Time 30 seconds, that's really a long time, especially in the life of a child. Within 15 seconds, they can probably play all the notes that they want to play. But if you have a bigger group, you won't be able to have large increments of time. I try to encourage them to integrate the concept they've learned about. If we learned about high and low, the direction is to try to improvise using those sounds. But again, it's improvisation, and there are no rules. They're creating their own song, and I use that very much for conversational teaching. So especially as we move through the year, if they're using finger number 2 of their right hand and they're playing low sounds and they played a group of 2 black keys, I might say, oh, look, Johnny's using finger 2 of his right hand and he's playing low sounds on 2 black keys. And I have reviewed 3 different lessons in the course of that. So if I had new children coming in, they gain that knowledge very conversationally, and it's a nice little review for the students that have been in class. One of my favorite or my biggest criticisms is that review is so important. Review leads to comfort and confidence, and comfort and confidence lead to competence. So it doesn't matter to me how many times I have to say it. If I have to say it 100 times and it's their process of learning, then that's my job as a teacher. And maybe for some I'll say it once, and maybe for some I have to say it more than once. All right. Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Jen. Okay. Okay. All right. So going back to the curriculum again, you'll see several folders for level 1. That's because in this package, it's the curriculum, the worksheets, and the song tracks. This particular package has all the games and the storybooks with it. This one has the marketing materials. And then the complete curriculum has level 2, which is where we're going next. Complete has KiddyKeys and Company, level 1, and the level 2. So level 2 is the second year. Same idea. If you look at the curriculum overview, we really amped it up. So there's some review in the beginning because you may have new students in that second year, but we talk about stepping notes, repeating notes, the grand staff and all the components of that, measures. There's ear training, rest, quarter, half, and whole. So we totally jazzed up and stoked up that second year of KiddyKeys so you can really ramp it up for the students that are returning and ready. But because there's that review in the beginning, you'll be able to capture new students coming in, and especially if you do that conversational teaching while they're improvising, and don't be afraid to go back and review. That's all good. So level 2 I really like because it does ramp up the learning and it feeds them really nicely into piano. So I don't want to take a lot of time with that curriculum overview, but come back to it and compare the concepts, and you can look right from KiddyKeys and Company to KiddyKeys level 1 to KiddyKeys level 2. If you could see me, I'm totally talking with my hands, and I feel like if anybody else was watching, they would wonder what I was doing. But I digress. All right, I talked about how we would marry all those across to methods and where you could maybe slide musically if you wanted to do more of a marriage of KiddyKeys and piano method. And as co-author of Road Trip, I certainly think it feeds perfectly into that. And so I would say about halfway through KiddyKeys level 1, which would be at that point where we're talking about treble G, bass clef F, and middle C. That would be a place to integrate piano pronto. I'm sorry, piano pronto, although I love piano pronto. Piano playground and road trip outdoor adventure at that point could be integrated. And in your kitchen, which I'll show you in a little bit, there's a freebie, KiddyKeys Plus it's called, that marries KiddyKeys to Road Trip Outdoor Adventure. So you can easily use those with groups of your students that are working in the piano prep portion of KiddyKeys and marrying it to Outdoor Adventure. So that's an option. And when we get to the kitchen, I'll show you where KiddyKeys Plus is. So level 1 KiddyKeys would be Piano Playground and Road Trip Outdoor Adventure about halfway through. If you opted to not do it then, certainly in level 2, same idea, because they've already learned G, F, and C. You could, from the beginning of level 2, be integrating KiddyKeys Plus, that Road Trip Outdoor Adventure with KiddyKeys, or same idea for recitals using the Piano Playground songs with the backing tracks, with the teacher duets, or having them just play them because they're just nice little rote pieces. Let's see. So KiddyKeys and Company, I'm looking at my notes, my apologies. KiddyKeys and Company, younger ones, KiddyKeys level 1 to follow, or for their first step for new programs, KiddyKeys level 2 to follow, integrating those other ones after there. Under the C, I just want to say this is just being released, and those are more challenging songs. That for students that are done with KiddyKeys and maybe are into the later road trips, which to me would be To the Farm or Country Carnival. That would be someplace to start sliding under the C in there. Let's see. So don't be afraid to use the site. If you're curious about the curriculum and the trajectory, click on any of the curriculum overviews to see exactly what that trajectory is going to be, and then you'll know where you're falling in there. All right. So the next thing I want to do is I'll just talk really quickly about sessions and trajectories. So you can see the trajectory when you look at the overview. And sessions, I don't think there's a hard and fast line for them. Mine were, depending on where I taught, 6 weeks at a child care center, 10, 12, or 15 if I was at a preschool or in a setting like that where they had a full year, I think like a school year session. And that would work really well. But again, with the whole idea of review, it's okay to go back and talk about those things. Keep it going, keep moving forward, and just pull that review back in. So I'm going to show you the kitchen really quickly. Love, love, love the kitchen. So this is what it looks like when you land here. And if you have a KiddyKeys account, and if you don't, you can just get one right here. And there are freebies in here for anybody. You don't have to have purchased anything from KiddyKeys. But this is what mine looks like because I have everything. So we have an audio player where your tracks are. All the audio tracks are in here with the video, so somebody can watch me doing it with a class, the song, and then the lyrics are up here as well. So I love the audio player. It's a nice big convenience, and you can use it from your phone, pad, or your computer. This is a viewer where you can look at all of the different components and what you have. So if I wanted to see some of the lesson plans, I would just click on any of these, and they're right here for me to check out. A quick look at them, if you will. The store, the profile, training manual, lesson plans. So when you click in here, this is what it looks like. And this is what KiddyKeys Plus looks like. So it's a lesson guide. And if you have a KiddyKeys account, this is open for all of you. You can take a quick look at it if you want, or open it in the viewer. And you'll see at the top where it says KiddyKeys and Road Trip Outdoor Adventure. So these are 18 plans to go along with the 18 road trip songs. And it lists exactly what KiddyKeys lesson plans go along with the road trip songs. And the reason this is in here is because teachers were integrating KiddyKeys and Road Trip Outdoor Adventure. So it just made sense to put the two in a lesson plans that were called KiddyKeys Plus. The other thing that you have, so your freebie that you have when you have your account is KiddyKeys Plus. And in the worksheets, the freebie is staff paper. There's really nice big kid-sized staff paper in a couple of different options. There's a blank staff, a treble clef staff. They're in portrait, so they can be bigger. And the other really awesome tool that we have in here, freebie for everybody, is a search engine optimization guide. And the amazing and fabulous Justin Beatty put this together. So if you haven't taken advantage of this, you want to read through this. So it talks about the basics of SEO, and he takes you stage by stage of great ways if you have a website to optimize that for good search engine optimization. Let's see. So I believe that's everything. I know I talk fast. I'm sorry, trying to get through a lot. Your time is valuable. And I'm going to, let's see. Oh, just really quickly. So there's the complete, which is level 1, level 2, and the curriculum for KiddyKeys and Company. Oh, I forgot, the sampler. So the sampler is the, the perfect little dip your toes in. This has 6 lesson plans, and this one we kept very short and succinct just to give you a taste of the lesson plans, but easy enough for new students to come in without it being overwhelming with information. So the sampler has finger numbers, hand position, 2 black keys, 3 black keys, the music alphabet, and note values. None of these, between the sampler and level 2 and level 1, none of them have the same worksheets. They all have different worksheets, so you don't have to worry about getting one and getting another and having it being the sort of same worksheets. They're all different. Let's see, I'll go back to that curriculum page. And so that's the sampler, which is 6 lesson plans. In this complete curriculum then, level 1, level 2, the sampler, and KiddyKeys and Company is in there. Separate one is the composer series. I won't go into that in great deal, but this is a nice little series of 9 lesson plans. Also has the audio tracks. I like this as a summer session. I think that's fun. It's a good little camp option. The same with the Carnival of Animals or the Compose Yourself. So that is, I'm sorry, a quick, succinct overview of the curriculum. I was trying to keep this at 30 minutes, so it was not too much to view. I'm going to sign out of the live. I'll get this uploaded, and then I'm going to check back because I can't see on the Facebook page to see if there's any questions. So my apologies for that, and thank you for bearing with me this morning while we dealt with the issues I was having with the live. I'm going to sign this off and check for questions, and thanks again for joining me.